Okay, let's start Shin Lamed Zayin. We'll just start the Hakdama and Sif Aleph of this new Sif, this new Siman. I mean, Shin Lamed Zayin. Din Kibud Habayis V'Dov She'en Mischaven. So it's quite yesodistic, this Siman. As you'll see, let's take a look at the opening lines of the Mechaber. But first, actually, before we do the Mechaber, let's do the Hakdama. So the Mishnah Berurah here has got a Hakdama to this Siman, a short Hakdama. Agdim el Siman Zeh Hakdama Katzara. Says the Mishnah Berurah that I will introduce a short Hakdama to this Siman. V'hi b'chayresh plowing who echod melamates avos melachos. Good, yeah, that's one of the 39 melachos. V'kivin shekavonas hachoresh lirpuei aro. The kavona, the objective of choresh is to soften the ground, to oz tov lizriya, and then it makes it good for sowing. V'gam kavonosa lahashvus hagumois, and the intention of ploughing is also to level out any dips or holes in the ground. Uli afoisa, and to improve it. Kadei sheyeh mokum shava, so that it should be level. And therefore, someone who digs in a field or who makes a choretz, a ditch, if you've got a little mound and you level it, you reduce it, or you've got a little ditch or low, something which goes low, and you raise it and you level it, and so too you just level things out, you make it suitable for sowing. All of the above is an issa of choresh. V'im ha'yezeh b'bayis, and if it's inside the house, chayiv mishum boina, then you've got a problem of boina, not of choresh. Shemisakin ha'binyan aladei zeh, because you're improving the building. V'chein kol ma she'osa liyafes hakarka, and similarly, anything which you do to improve the ground, who told that toledes choresh, it's a tolda of choresh, v'chayiv b'chol shehu, and you'll be chayiv even for a small amount. That's quoting the Rambam in Perek Aleph of Hilchos Shabbos, I guess. Okay, now let's say the Mechaber. Dava she'ein miskaven is mutter. Something where you don't intend that the outcome is mutter. V'hu shelo yehi psik reishis, so long as the outcome is not inevitable. Hilkach, therefore, goyre odom mitzah kisei v'safsal. The person is allowed to drag a bed, a chair, or a bench, bein gedolim bein ketanim, whether they're large or small. So long as your intention is not to create a groove, a furrow in the land, it will be allowed. Because it's not a psikration, and therefore that's not your kavana. Your kavana is just to get the chair or whatever you're dragging from one corner to the other. And if something happens, that's okay, because that was not your kavana and it was not inevitable, and therefore it will be okay. So we're saying when it's not a psikration, we'll see in the Mishnah Berurah, if it's very heavy and it's psikration, then it's different. But otherwise it'll be okay. Finishing off the Mechaber, so you're allowed to sprinkle water. Remember, if you got these back in the day when you've got earth and a lot of dust around, they would sprinkle, and the Gemara talks about it, you'd be marabitz, you'd take some water and you just sprinkle it on the floor to settle the dust. You're there, your intention is not to be meshave gumos, to level the ground out. You just don't want the dust to circulate in the house, and therefore you sprinkle a bit of water so that it stays, the dust stays on the ground. Okay, says the Mishnah Berurah, Sif Cotton Aleph. I quote, says the Mishnah Berurah, the Lashon of the Rambam, Dvarim hamutarin la'asoyson b'Shabbos, things which you're allowed to do on Shabbos, and things which are allowed to do on Shabbos, and as a result, an indirect result of that, a melacha might occur, and maybe it won't. If you don't intend for that melacha to happen, then it's allowed. And that really is what the Mechaber is intending to say. Psikresha, pirush, shebevadai teose melacha ha'acheres. If it's inevitable, and remember, where does this word psikresha come from? We're used to using the word psikresha. It actually means to cut off the head, and the Gemara uses it with a chicken. The Gemara says that if you've got, back in the day, you would give kids little chickens to play with. So it says psikresha v'lo yomas, you cut off the head of the chicken and it won't die. So it means an inevitable consequence. So pirush shebevadai teose melacha ha'acheres. Hilkoch, therefore, pirush. Given the dova she'ein miskaven mutter, since the dova she'ein miskaven is mutter, hilkach goyre. Therefore, if you drag a bench, a chair, or something, afal gav to be grosser motzu she'asu charitzim b'karka, even though it's sometimes likely that you will create grooves in the ground, and therefore it could be a problem of digging, which is a told of the cherish, which is a told of cherish. Afilu hachilapsik ratio is not inevitable. Afilu bekarka she'ena murutzefes, even in earth, in ground, which is not covered, which is not tiled or carpeted or whatever. It's just even in that, sometimes a groove is created. And it could be that there's no groove that's going to be created. And the Mechaber says, whether the chair, the bed, or the bench is large or small. What's the problem with large ones? Says the Mishnah Berurah, Sif Cotton Dalet, the mitrich le lisoy mal ksefa, because there's a tircha to carry it, on your shoulder, to schlep it, or bein ktanim, the yocheli kachoim al ksefa, where you can carry it on your shoulder. Afilu hachi mutalo legaram alaris. You're allowed to drag them on the ground, and even though you could carry them on your shoulder, you're allowed to. Now, this is your point. Kosav Hamogan Avram, the Gedolim B'Yoiseh, if they're particularly large or heavy, also Ligra Alaris, then you cannot drag them on the ground. The Pesik ratio there, it's inevitable, the Bevadai Yaseh Choretz, that you will certainly make a groove in the ground. Even therefore, if it's Murutzav, even with marble, it's a Gozrina Murutzav, Otu Eina Murutzav. Now the question is, what about strollers, buggies, prams, and things like that? So I'll just read you from the back, just a line. He says, this is paragraph 12 in the footnote on page 66. Walking with a buggy or pram or stroller, quoting Gemara in Beitza, that's actually allowed. Even if it's quite a heavy and large pram, since it doesn't inevitably make a choretz, it's just pressing down the ground underneath it. It's not really called making a choretz, and therefore going with a pram, on grass or something like that, would not be a problem. Let's just finish off the Mishnah Berurah, Sif Kotzen Hey, Rabbi. So we said you're allowed to sprinkle water on an earthenware floor, on an earth floor. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Sif Kotten Hey, La Hazis Maim ala Karkas Habayis Kadesh Lo Yale Hovek, so the dust won't rise. The Afagav the Harbotza, even though when you sprinkle Kamapomim Mismalim Hagumais Be'ofel Vavok, sometimes it fills with earth or with dust. Because that's not your intention. V'gam lafsik ratio, and it's not inevitable. V'afilu b'karka she'enu resefes is mutter, and therefore even if it's an earth floor, it would be allowed. We said previously that there's a problem of zoreya and doing all these sort of things by putting water on ground, on earth. So we said, but you're only putting a fairly small amount. You're just sprinkling a tiny bit of water, and it's like the rake. We said that you spit, and it's not going to cause any sprouting of crop or anything like that. So to this, you're just sprinkling a little bit of water, and therefore there's no problem. On an earth floor, it would not be, even that would not be a problem. Okay, Mr. Shem will continue tomorrow.